We're afraid of what people will think, or we're afraid we're not good enough, or we're afraid we're too much. And so we hold ourselves back. When we do that, we're muting ourselves. And there are too many people that are muting themselves in the world. And I, for so many years, was one of them. I've discovered the power of unmuting myself, of showing up in the world in a way that is joyfully expressed and boldly alive. That's something that has been so important to me as I've discovered how freeing it is to be unmuted, to unmute our body and to unmute our ideas and to unmute our desires, to unmute ourselves in relationships and at work, and to be our own advocates and to ask for what we want and need. The unmuted life is a life that is fully alive and fully expressed and confident and clear. And to me, it's the only way that I know how to live now. I know what it's like to feel confined and stuck and small and silenced. And I also know what it feels like to be expressed and alive and joyful and present and seen. And it's so much better of a life to be unmuted. And that is what I want to bring you into. Are you ready to unmute yourself? Let's make it happen. Good morning, everybody. So good to have you here for another episode of Unmuted, or Unmute Yourself. Year and a half in. And I just want to say how much I appreciate all of you who show up on these shows and share your insights and wisdom and humor and love and support. It's really awesome to see in the chat. And when we are able to bring people up live, it's so fun. So I'm just going to give a shout out. If you're joining us today, let us know that you are here. We've got Leonard Young. Lenny's here from Boston. Boston, I don't know if I've ever told you, my husband is a Red Sox fan. Not sure if you are. I don't want to make the assumption, but you are, again, always someone who's so supportive. Tom Doherty's here. Let's go. If you are ever in Oakland at the zoo, you got to go check it out and visit him there. Hopefully it's one of the days that he's going to be there. We've got Doug Skoke from Southern Florida. Hey, we hung out last Thursday. The Outlier Project with Kathy Leckie and Scott McGregor and a whole bunch of other people, including Tom Doherty. Amazing group of people. I felt so supported. Yay, Rich Casson. And yes, and shout out to Daniel Hall for that intro video. I get so many comments on that intro video. And Daniel Hall, when I first wanted to do the show, I got connected to him through Tim and Bryant and Nancy. And they were like, he's the guy to do your intro video. And we talked about the vision, and I sent him a bunch of sound bites, and he made that magic happen. Also want to give a shout out and appreciation to Daniel Hall and Nancy Barrows, because their company Peekaboo powers the analytics for the show. So when you get invited and you're like the first to know about this stuff happening, it's because of that tool. So I just wanted to say appreciation and thank you for that. And again, shout out to all the skills and talents that Daniel and Nancy have. Natalie is so ready for today's episode. Natalie, so good to see you here. You're amazing. Baltimore is represented today. Seriously though, Toby. I'm Rachel Fox. Hey. Yes. And at Rachel Fox, such important work that you do in the area of helping people be more financially well. As the daughter of a financial planner, I think that is so important. And Veda's here. So good to see you. I'm glad that you're with us today. Veda's another person who always, whether it's through a message, a private chat message, or a comment, just always makes me feel seen and celebrated. And hey, we've got some serious Red Sox fans in the chat, apparently. Daniel and Lenny, my husband will appreciate this. Sometimes he sneak tunes in. Lisa is here. Whoop, whoop. Good to have you here. Amazing. Barbara, good to have you. Nathan. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to have you here. This is going to be such a fun conversation. Couple things I want to mention. One, If you are in the Baltimore, DC area and you want to see me do my TEDx talk live on July 8th, send me a DM and I can send you the link to the information about that event. It's on July 8th. I'm so excited. I had my first in-person rehearsal on Friday, my first run through, and got really great feedback from the organizers. So now it's just a matter of like getting those 18 minutes in my bones. So I can't wait to share that with you all. Once we'll have to do like a reveal show. I'm going to have an episode the Monday after that Saturday of the show. So you will not want to miss that episode because I'm going to be floating on a cloud, I'm pretty sure. And it's my 39th birthday that day as well. So yay, Zach Demopoulos, I made it. Zach's here. Amazing, amazing. Yay. I love the enthusiasm. So I wanted to mention that. And then today, to tee up, we've got a repeat guest today because everyone just loved the show so much when we did it in December. Can't believe it's already been that long. But also, there's another reason why I wanted to ask this person to do this episode today, this week, that we'll get to later in the show. But our guest today is someone who, perhaps more than anyone else, has influenced my life and my career path. And my marriage in ways that we'll talk about today. So he is somebody who is perpetually curious, and I get my love of learning and my curiosity from him for sure. And so I thought it would be fun to start with a question today for all of you to find out what is something that you have listened to, a song, a podcast that you listen to, maybe an audiobook or a book that you've read lately, just like one thing that has inspired you in some way. I want to invite you to take a moment. If you want to drop, I love all the love for each other in the chat. This is so great. Song, book, or podcast that's inspired you lately. And while you're dropping those in, I know my dad has one he's going to share in a moment when I bring him up after I introduce him. But I wanted to share, I like reading mysteries. There's a book called The Housemaid and then The Housemaid's Secret, I think. They're two mystery novels that were really fun. They're not like anything that's going to, stimulate your intellect, but they're entertaining page turners. But there's another book I'm reading that I want to recommend to all of you that I've talked about for years, but I've never actually read it. It's called Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. And it's something, self-compassion is something I think a lot of us can struggle with. And there's a quote that I'm pulling up that I want to read and make sure I don't miss. But it's something that can be hard for a lot of us to do too, when we're dealing with something difficult, when we're struggling, when we're suffering in some way, that we can just heap more self-criticism upon ourselves. And instead of being kind to ourselves, instead of showing ourselves compassion. And I, as much as anyone else, have a strong tendency to do that. And so there was something from the book that I thought would be really helpful to share with all of you. And this is, by the way, something we can unmute. We can unmute self-compassion and kind of mute some of the self-criticism. The question that we can ask ourselves when we're having a moment of struggling, and I'm going to bring attention to all of your books and songs and podcasts in a moment. The question is this, the statement in question, offering this to yourself. This is really difficult right now. How can I care for and comfort myself in this moment? How can I care for and comfort myself in this moment? Even things like saying things to ourselves like, hey, it must be incredibly difficult to hear such harsh judgment all day. Inside your own head, I see you're really hurting, and like, what could we do to have that kind of voice with ourselves when we're having a hard time? So if book's called Self-Compassion, if you're having a tough time, or just you want to feel like a more peaceful human, that's why I'm reading it. Check that out. Oh my gosh, Bryant's here. Dad! Brian Schulman's very excited to see you, Dad. All right. So if you're just joining us, we're dropping in the chat a song, book, or podcast that's inspired you lately. Oh, Tom sent a postcard to you with a little note on it. So he says, my somebody postcard on my board. The new release, Rescued by the Foo Fighters. Ooh, Rich Gasson. I'm going to have to check that out. I'm going to make a note to self. Music. Toby, I'm watching Jordan Peterson's podcast on the book of Exodus. Totally fascinating. Daniel Hall reading Measure of a Man from Auschwitz Survivor to President's Tailor. Ooh, Dad, that sounds like a book you'd be into. The Little Prince. Lenny says The Little Prince, for it's only with the heart that one can see rightly. Oh my gosh, Rich. Rich, I'm telling somebody. You're so kind. Oh, I know, Barbara, not a book or song or a podcast, but a series. Ted Lasso. Yes to Ted Lasso. Why is that show over? I'm really sad about it, Barbara. I'm not okay with it. Really upset about it. Let's see. Oh, Natalie. I'm so glad that song is inspiring you. I found out we got the date for meeting with the band for the next song. I think July 3rd, we're going to get the band together to record the instrumental. So stay tuned. Y'all have been patient. And oh my gosh, Tim Sohn, for real, that video of the Masanzi's youth choir's version of It's Okay by Nightbird, tears, puffs, where are the puffs? It's such an incredible, incredible video. Oh yeah, Tim Ferriss is fascinating, Doug. Listening to an interview with him with Danny Meyer, the founder of Shake Shack. Good morning, Carla. We're just dropping in books and podcasts and songs that we like. Rachel, clearly going to have to step it up for my library collection of Amish smut here. Hey, no judgment whatsoever. So without further ado, thanks for dropping this in. Thought it would be fun to change up the question today, to get us to kind of inspire each other. I know my dad has a book he's going to share, but I want to we've introduced him before because he was here in December, but my dad, Michael Bryant, is just like a fascinating human being. He is an entrepreneur. He just describes himself as terminally unemployable. And for as long as I've been alive, he has been employed by no one other than himself. And he's the one that showed me that was possible. He was the first person that ever showed me like, hey, it's possible to just like make up what you do and then like convince people they should pay you for it. That's basically what an entrepreneur does, right? And he's someone who is just has this passion for learning and this insatiable curiosity. He's a 6-time Ironman triathlon finisher. And I think I want to bring him on. And if all you want to drop this in the chat with me, tomorrow is a really special day. So we're going to bring him up. Tim, I'm going to bring him up on the screen. I want to do a special intro today, and then we'll just let him come on and talk. Tomorrow is Michael Bryant's birthday. So I just want to take a moment and do this for him. So everybody in the chat, drop in all the happy birthdays. Okay. And I'm going to sing. Okay. So Dad, here you go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dad. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. It's very nice.
All the happy birthdays are coming in the chat. Yeah. Angela. Oh, hey, Angela, you're here. So good to see you here. And Nathan and Zach and Veda.
Thanks, Zach. Thanks,
So how you doing? What are you reading? What's inspiring you?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm juggling two right now. One is the Escape Artist by Jonathan Freeland. It's about an escape from Auschwitz, which is just, and first of all, it's just really thought-provoking. I think it's just really, when you get a really well-written book, it's like one of those. And then I'm also reading The Champion Mindset by Joanna Zeiger. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other, except they're just things that, they don't have to have it. I like reading them both, so that's why.
And the one about by the way, it looks like Barbara Fagan says, happy birthday, fellow Ironman. Barbara, which one did you do? Drop in the chat.
Which one did she do? Yeah.
Let us know which one you did. You're just like speaking my dad's language. So what's the second book about?
All of mine are in Lake Placid. I have, how many? 8 halves. They're all with the other ones. Yes.
Well, that book though, tell us, maybe that's a good place to start. The book by Joanna, or the book about like what happened. Like what happened. The story you told me this morning was so cool.
It's so interesting. So Joanna Zeiger was won the world championship at the half Ironman, which is 70.3 miles. In 2009. In 2010, she was defending her title, and she was going through the aid station to get a water bottle. And as she grabbed the water bottle, the volunteer held onto the water bottle. It pulled her off the bike, broke her collarbone, 6 ribs, 5 years of surgeries. And basically, rather than looking at all that and just having that be the end of it, she ended up qualifying for the Olympics as a marathon runner, so it doesn't really have quit. But the thing I think we were talking about, Rachel, is so interesting, and I think it applies to so many different things. She said, when you're doing an event, there's 4 options. It doesn't really matter what the thing is that you're doing. There's 4 options. One is you prepare, you do what you need to do, and you meet your goal. The second is not everything goes right. You still meet your goal. The next one is you do everything right, but you don't meet your goal. And then the third is you don't do much of anything and you don't reach your goal. So I mean, this sort of I really like it that it's really, I often kid to my clients that all the secrets of life are hidden in Ironman anyway. So that's just, another one. So that's really just I love people's different perspectives on things. Just love to read something and it gets me thinking. I think that's
Yeah,
you know,
that's cool.
really,
Well, and it's also like part of it is when we talk about, this, what it means to unmute ourselves. I think one of the things that we wanted to talk about today is like how how we can unmute perspective and tell a
mhm.
different story. And look at that.
Yes.
Tim put together a
Yeah.
cute little banner.
Yeah.
Like and how we like there's stories we tell ourselves about, like, the story she could have told herself when that happened, like,
Mhm.
up, it's all over. Or even something that you're navigating right now with, like, your knee, like you could tell yourself a certain
Yeah.
story about that. And then I'm going to talk about like
Yeah,
other stuff.
Mom and I were gonna do a half Ironman together this year, and I was gonna do one more full Ironman. And then on New Year's Day, I tore my meniscus. So that turned me from competitor to coach right away for Mom, and my whole season was wiped out. So I had a couple of options because there's plenty of things in life that you don't control. I mean, stuff happens, but you always control your response. You own it. You own your response. So I kind of like having, if you do what I do and pound on yourself the way I pound on myself, I'm really good friends with surgeons and rehab, and it's part of the deal. And so I said, well, I'm going to look at this as a blessing. It happened. It happened. It's my meniscus. I'm going to walk around it because I'm going to get surgically repaired. What's happened was that I had issues with my Achilles like forever. Because of my rehab, I have learned how to stop that issue. I would have never known what it was I needed to do. I mean, it's incredible what
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to do just to be so much fitter and stronger in ways I didn't know. And did I wish I had the meniscus? Well, that's just an event.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of events. I decided the meaning I gave it, and I just thought, well, I'm here, so I'm going to figure out what's really something good I can really take out of this thing. And so, you know, it's not a bad experience because once it heals, and it's healing, it's healing because I'm a rehab freak, so it's going to heal. It's like I was doing rehab once, and the guy said, "Oh, what did you do this week?" And I said, I did this, this, and this. He said, well, like you over rehab. I said, well, you told me to do. He says, nobody does everything you tell them to do. They do like, if I tell you to do 10, you're going to do 4. I said, don't tell me to do 10 because I'll do 10. And so he's like, you actually over rehab, which is really quite a skill. So yeah, wow, barbers all over the whole. Holy smokes! Wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Yes, geez. Yeah, my DNF, as we call it, swim bike done. It's actually a special designation you get if you get to them. So yeah, so unfinished business, coming back on my terms. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
anything that happens is an experience. It's aside the meaning you give it. People said, "Were you disappointed?" I said, "No, I was dissatisfied." Well, why weren't you disappointed? I said, because I know what my goal is. My goal is to go as far as I can go, as fast as I can go, as long as I can go. My goal
Mm-hmm.
is to do my best. My goal is to learn something. All 3 of those boxes were checked. How could it be a bad experience?
Mm.
You know, was it
Yeah.
the one I wanted? No, we'll fix that. I'll be back.
No, you have, what's the thing? You have it sitting there on your computer, thing I gave you for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right here. I look at it every day. The property of Ironman Michael Bryant, unfinished business. On my arrow bars, I have 2 words: unfinished business. I look at it every time I ride. I see it in my office every day. I'm a man on a mission. Yeah.
And well, and I think the thing that I find really powerful is the fact that, like, a lot of the times at your age, people are just like winding down everything. And you're like, what
Right.
more is possible? You're like, it's gonna be, so y'all, my dad's gonna be 73 tomorrow and has like no signs of slowing down, which is inspiring that life can get more exciting
Well,
and more
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, all I gotta do is wait 2 more years and I'll be the baby in my age group to 75 to 79. Then I'm gonna really unleash hell when that happens. So I got I'll be the elder statesman next year. So
So there's
I become the
that.
baby again. So the babies in the age group are, they cause trouble. So I'm looking forward to creating a lot of mischief in 2 years. So
Well, there's something interesting too that I want to bring up. I think it would have been 7 years ago. Would it have been so my brother's wife's mom, so Lane, my sister-in-law's mother, right, was diagnosed with brain cancer. Was it 2017, right? Because right when Riley was born.
Mhm.
And there was a race. So we did this race called Punching. It was like the Keep Punching 5K, and it was to raise money for brain cancer research. And like 2 weeks, maybe, or a week before the race, I was supposed to do a 5K. I was in like ready to go, ready to do this race. I think I'd placed like the year before or something. And I was pulling a glass jar out of my pantry, and it hit the edge of the counter, and the bottom of the glass jar fell out, and it cut the top of my foot. And the skin on the top of your foot is like, super thin. And so I had to get stitches across the top of my foot, and I was not able to race. And I was like really bummed about it. And I had this thought. I just read this book called The Art of Possibility. I don't know if it's somewhere on my shelf. It's called The Art of Possibility by Benjamin Zander, who is the conductor of the Boston Philharmonic. And there was a question he asked in the book, and the question was, how can I be a contribution? And I think that's a way we can unmute ourselves, is when we're in a state where we feel like we don't have any other option, that we can ask ourselves the question of, how can I be a contribution? And so I thought, well, how can I be a contribution? I decided, well, I'm going to be at this thing anyway. My family's going to be at this thing anyway. Lane's mom's going to be, this whole community of like 25 people are going to be there anyway. So I'm going to bring my camera. I'm hardly even an amateur photographer. I just basically took pictures for a food blog for 4 years and had a really nice camera that could take good pictures.
You do still life.
And and so I brought the camera, and Chris Washington's here. So good to see you here. I brought the camera with me, and I just took pictures, and I got some of the most joyful pictures of Patty, of Lane's mom, holding her grandbabies, like smiles of like just her and Lane. I wish I'd thought to like bring these. Maybe Tim, I can send him. We can put them up at a future show just to show people. But I was able to capture some incredible, beautiful moments. And like, if I had run that race, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's so funny. The years that I don't race, we volunteer, and one of the things that we love to do is we love to get a save. A save is when an athlete's going to quit, and we talk them back into the race, and it's as meaningful to me as finishing the race. I mean, it's just inspiring. Like, I'm done. No, you're not. No, you're not. Let's hear. I mean, and then we follow them, and we follow their lives after they leave the thing, and it's so awesome just to give that chance to give back to somebody and to say, well, I've been where you've been. Like, I know what this, Ironman's great because it beats up everybody the same way. It just doesn't care who you are. It's going to bang or pound on you. So yeah, it's really, but that ability just to give back, like, to me, it keeps going back to, how do you want to respond? Not what's happening, but just like, how do you want to respond? And I think we were talking about it earlier. No, so often what happens is that something will happen and you'll tell yourself a story. And the stories are limiting. I'm working with, Zoom, the greatest inventions in the history of mankind. So I'm working with a client this morning in Singapore, like figured that one out in the old world we were in. And then, he's job hunting. And I said, okay, today we're working on your mind, not anything related to a job. We're working on your mind and working on the stories you're telling yourself. And basically kind of when these limiting stories come up, these lies that you tell yourself about who you are and who you're, I said, this is like, I want that noise in your head. I'm not going there. We're not talking about that. I said, it'll take you down a rabbit hole you don't want to go. I said, it takes enough energy to solve the problem without siphoning off energy about what will happen if the problem's not solved. Just focus, focus. Mom's got 2 words for this coming Sunday: focus and execute. That's it. The simpler you make it, oftentimes, the easier it is. And one of the biggest problems is that, you have a lot of smart people that you hang out with, Rachel. You got these are some smarty smarts that happen. There are people that have what I call smart people's disease, which is the ability to complicate tying your shoe if you're wearing a loafer. which is that, you can dissect everything 6 ways to Sunday. And, oftentimes people will say to me, it's not that easy. And I'll say, yeah, what if it was?
Mm.
What that's not true?
Mhm.
What if it's pretty much, doctor, it hurts when I do this, don't do this? I mean, it's like, what if it's not that difficult? But smart people, which, I mean, it's really good to be smart. I mean, I'd rather be smart than not smart. I've never met anybody that says, I think dumb's where I'm going. I mean, if I aspire to be an idiot, I've never heard that. But it comes with it is kind of, you can overcomplicate the obvious,
Mhm.
So, you go in with two questions. What is my goal or goals, and what are my concerns? And I think so many things can just be relegated to that,
Yeah.
like, what am I trying to get done? Um,
Yeah.
just simplify it.
It's like getting clarity. I mean,
Yes.
that's what I feel like you and I are both just like question askers. That it's like you get to understand something by asking questions, because sometimes it's like we're stuck in a thing that we're not even able to identify what it is. Like I was sharing with you earlier, and I've shared with some people in this community, for the past 3 months, in like I've been in a dip. Like I don't know if it was like a mild depression or what it was, but after the settlement happened for my car accident at the end of February, I just like went into a spot that I felt like I was in a funk and like I couldn't get out of, to the point where like clients, people in this community were messaging me. They're like, "Are you all right? Like you don't seem yourself, like and when you're in the middle of a thing, sometimes you can't realize it. And so it's sort of like after the fact,
Hmm.
only in the past couple of weeks have I been able to like really identify that, like, oh, and again, that's where the self-compassion, unmuting that self-compassion comes in, of saying like,
Right.
oh, like that's what this is. Like what do you need to comfort yourself right now? And so I've intentionally been spending time with certain friends. I've, been going through some different like healing practices. I've been reading a book called Self-Compassion. I've, talking about it at therapy. I've let myself cry. I even got my friend Lola, Lola recommended. She goes, it's going to sound weird, guys. But because I have this sort of ambivalent relationship with this accident, the car accident that happened 3 years ago of getting hit, there's like the part of it that to your point with the meniscus, wish it never happened, right? Wish it never happened, but it did. And so what's the story I'm going to tell myself? And part of it is like I've gotten to use that story many times to help thousands of other people feel less alone. And there's still days where like, grief comes up when you're dealing with something hard, and it's gonna time where I'm gonna get triggered by something, and I'm gonna get
Mhm.
mad at the accident again and blame it.
Right.
So she had me get, I should have brought it in here today, a little stuffed goat. Because she said, get like a stuffed animal or a creature or something. Oh, Tim, I didn't even think about the goat thing. I'm sorry, I'm looking at your face right now. So I got hit.
Nothing you do surprises me. Here we go, off the cliff. Let's hear this.
Well, I got hit by a Chevy Silverado, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was like, what's something I could get that would symbolize the memory of the accident, that she's like, that you can like cuddle with it, when you can just like have some compassion for that part of yourself. But
Right.
also when you're really having a bad day, you can just like throw it and you won't break anything. So I went online and I bought a stuffed animal goat, and I named it Chevy because chèvre in French is goat. And so I was like, well, what's going to represent a Chevrolet Silverado? And a stuffed goat. So now I sleep with a stuffed goat
It's
and
hysterical.
my husband. But like,
It's
I
hysterical.
have a little stuffed goat,
But it works.
and yeah, it's like I
Yeah.
just looking at this thing and I'm like, how can I look at this hard thing that I didn't ask for with a bit more
Yeah, it's
compassion?
interesting. One of the things I was sharing with you. So,
Mm-hmm.
so when I'm trying to solve a problem, I approach it in 2 ways. The first thing I tell myself is, you're not the first person that had this problem. You did not invent. There's not one problem I've ever had that I invented. Oh, no one's else ever had that in the history of the planet Earth. So this has already been done by somebody, and there's a solution to it. And I'm going to go get it. So I become like so so I like to surround myself with like people who are so smart they make my head hurt. So one of the people that I work with when I'm training is Mark Allen, who's a 6-time Ironman world champion. One of the things that Mark said to me that it just continues to resonate, because it's true about racing, it's true about life. He said, sometimes in a race, all you have left is 10%. Like, that's it. Like, you're shot. He said, your only goal is to give 100% of your 10%.
Mhm.
And I just think that just is such a great life lessons. I mean, sometimes, we're all doing the best we can with the insight, information, and emotional support that's available at that time.
Mhm.
Sometimes our best is nothing to get excited about. I mean, we are not, I mean, A game, we're not even on our D plus game. But whatever you got, whatever you have right there, just give 100% of that.
Mhm.
And don't beat yourself up because you don't have more than that,
Right.
because you have what you have,
Mhm.
as we were talking, however critical other people are to us, they can't hold a candle to the way we can beat the crap out of ourselves because
Mhm.
we know things about ourselves we ain't telling anybody. So, and we just like go right for the jugular, like right,
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to a client. I'm like, do you like kill people? Are you like an axe murderer? Like, what is that about? That conversation. I mean, what have you? Okay, so like you didn't finish something you started. Did like anybody die? I mean, did you kill anybody? No.
Mhm.
Okay, well then like put the stick down. I mean, just like 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 stop that.
Yeah.
Just like why? Because it's not nice. It's not nice. I mean, why do you want to hang around with somebody all day that's going to beat you up? I mean, I mean, people get up every day somewhere and they're saying this. Well, here goes nothing. I'll see what happens today. Throw this against the wall and see what's there. Isn't that inspiring? I mean, isn't that so much fun? I mean, to me, the decision to be an optimistic, positive person is in many ways a very selfish decision. I don't want to hang around with some Debbie Downer all day. I mean, I got to, everywhere I go, there I am. I mean, so I want to hang around somebody who's having a good day. So
Mhm.
it's really a decision to basically say, I'm not saying no one cares, but no one cares. I
No.
mean, it's like, I mean, if I want to be the most miserable person after we get off of this, like mom's out right now and I'm in this house by myself. If I want to be miserable for an hour, it's not going to affect anybody but me. I'd really rather not.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's this, one of the things that Duke University done a lot of work on positive psychology.
Mhm.
And one of the things they found is that positive people, first of all, most people are nothing during the day. I mean, if somebody was positive all day, we'd kind of be, how you doing? Great, great. Had a Philip was like amazing. And then I
Mhm.
stopped at the stores and like go away. Like that's
Yeah.
just a little bit too much.
Annoying.
Most people are nothing. They just kind of are.
Mhm.
What positive people are very, very good at is not being negative. They're
Mhm.
very, very good at arguing with themselves. This isn't going to work. And nobody says, oh, wait a minute, wait. How do you know that? Like positive people will challenge that.
Mhm.
They won't let themselves get away with that. Now, it's not like they don't say, it's not like they don't have bad days or they don't have bad, it's not that. But they don't buy into this, well, that's just the way I am and that's just the way it's going to be. It's like, well, that's what's happening right now.
Right.
Yeah, that's what's
Interesting.
happening right now. And does right now suck? Yeah, it really does. But like I said to you, all you got to do is get up tomorrow and your feet hit the ground and you get a do-over.
Right.
My theory based on nothing, this is my study that I've done based on
Mhm.
absolutely nothing, is I believe that there are 10 days a year where you can do no wrong. All that comes in the mail is money. Everybody answers all your emails and texts. Like you want the day to go on forever.
Mhm.
And then there are 10 days out of the year where you're just saying, God, what did I do? I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I would stay in bed, but probably the house would catch on fire. And you just want the day to end. If that's true, and I don't know if it is, that means 345 were up for grabs. They can be anything.
Yeah.
They can be anything. And it's like, well, what do you want them to be?
Mhm.
What do you want to happen? How do you want, what kind of day do you want to hang out in?
Yeah.
It's really, I don't know. That's just really,
Yeah. Well, and how are you gonna and are you gonna let other people decide what kind of day you're gonna have, right? Because a lot of
oh
times
my
it's like one
gosh.
person ticks you off, and you're like,
Yes.
I'm that all day, and it's like,
Right.
don't give somebody that much power.
I was having a perfectly good day, but because you said something, I'm giving you the rest of my day. That's a very bad trait. That's a
Very
bad
bad.
trait. Bad trait. Bad trait. Don't make it bad trait. It's not a good trait. I don't want to make that trait. That's like it's like why would you do that? If you were having a good day before you saw them, I mean, if somebody's kind of like being a jerk or something, there's something 10 times worse than having to deal with a jerk. That's being a jerk.
Mhm.
Because after the jerk leaves you, they got to get in the car with the jerk, they got to go home with the jerk, they got to
Right.
wake up with the jerk. I mean, you have a much better deal. They're out of your airspace. So I look at that and I'm like, you know what? I really am doing okay because like I don't have to be like them. I don't,
Right. Like
you know,
that.
I mean, just think about when we're in traffic. I mean, Americans agree on very few things, but one thing we almost all agree about is we're all superior drivers. So
Right.
therefore, when we're on the road, we have to educate other people. Now, since we're in climate control vehicles, we talk to people that don't even know we're talking to them. So they don't even know we had a conversation with them. And I'm like, okay, so like when you get worked up, whose veins on whose neck pop up, not theirs.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't make fun of
It's just
that make
like,
a lot of sense. I
it's
mean,
like, how can we mute some of that? And it's not to say
yeah,
that there's not a place for it, right? Because it's like
right.
we're not advocating for toxic positivity. We're just saying like,
No, no, for sure.
acknowledge the hard thing, but
Right,
rec-
right.
but
But we don't
recognize
have to add to it.
right.
If I live to be 150, I will never understand unkindness. I just don't get it.
Mhm.
I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. There's no reason to ever respond to unkindness with unkindness. And now, to
Mhm.
your point, you don't let somebody walk on you, and you don't
Right.
let somebody hurt you. You
Mhm.
can have boundaries, but it doesn't mean that you have to be unkind. It's not. It's just not necessary. I mean,
Yeah.
so often we need to be able to look at something and say, "Well, I think I can do better than that."
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you mess up, you own up. Maya Angelou said, so
Mhm.
you mess up, you own up. I mean, there's a place for I'm sorry, and I'm sorry I did that. But it's kind of like, but you don't have to. It's because you're hurt doesn't mean you have to be hurtful. I mean, hurt people. I get
Right.
that, but you don't have to hurt back.
Yeah.
You know what? This isn't a good time. We're going to move some airspace between us, and you know,
Step aside. Yes.
we're going to pollute that river with junk. You know.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I want to share, there's some like love coming in the chat here and comments of like Toby says, I do often ask myself, my kids, what's the worst thing that would happen if you don't do that thing? If you're going to be here tomorrow to try again, sometimes you get to leave it until tomorrow, so that perspective of like, you get another day, and Zach did the math. Zach is hilarious. He goes 94% of the year is up for grabs. Great way to think about
Thank you,
it.
thank you, Meg, for that.
Thank you, Zach, for doing the math problem. We really appreciate it. And then Brian Schulman hashtag put the stick down because it's not nice.
All right.
It's because we do that, right? We're unkind, and in relationships, I think something that'd be interesting to talk about is like unmuting ourselves. In our closest relationships, especially like even like our romantic relationships. I mean, something that I've seen, all of us have stories that we tell ourselves about the way things are in that space, and that what can be our most intimate relationships, and we can be very hard on ourselves and each other in those spaces too, and not kind to ourselves and each other. And I think part of the reason for that is because and when like that relationship is good, everything else seems to be easier. When that relationship is not good, everything else is harder.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
for sure.
so, I mean, something that I've seen, so you and mom, Bill and I, it's funny. Bill and I will be celebrating 17 years of being together this month, like next week. And we've been married for it'll be a dozen years in August. When you and mom have been married for 43 years in August
Together for 46.
and together for
Right, so
46.
we started when we were both really dumb. I mean, we started young and dumb. It's like, and there truly is no cure for stupid. There is no shot or vaccine for stupid.
Well, but I think something that you do though that I appreciate is that I've learned from to like address stuff in my own marriage sooner
Mhm.
is that like you're willing to, I think a lot of people make a decision to be like, and I know you say this a lot of like, they say this is just the way I am, and you're like, no, your eye color is the way that you is. Like,
Right,
if your behavior is a choice,
right.
like,
Your
but
toe size is the way you am.
right.
That's the choice.
But the other things are you have the ability to influence. We don't maybe you don't want to change. A lot of us are like, oh, it's just the way I am as an excuse to say, what I'm really trying to say is I don't want to change that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not willing to try. Okay, well then own that, but don't say that it's just because of the
Right,
way you are, because
right.
that's unfair.
And you
Um,
choose the behavior, you choose the consequence. So what do you want to have? I mean, people hate that.
oh yeah,
They want like, well, I want to do what I want to do, and then like and it's not like no, that's not no. I want to not sleep and be refreshed. No, that's not no. Like, thank you for
tell me when you
sharing.
figure out that hack. Yeah,
Right,
right.
right, right,
Like
right. I want to do nothing to work on my body, and I want to be in really good shape. No, you choose behavior, you choose consequence. It's not a judgment; it's just a fact.
sure.
You know?
So, but like marriage though, when you think about it, I mean, like again, one of the like Bill and I, because of what I've seen for you and mom do,
Mhm.
have like intentionally taken steps to go to workshops and retreats that you've gone on or that you've suggested, or read books? Like there's a book, well, there's two that I'll mention that I have here. Making Marriage Simple, whether or not you're married, just if you're in an intimate relationship, really great book. And then this oldie but goodie, Getting the Love You Want.
4 million of those in counting.
4 million in those. Yeah. And it's funny. This edition is so old, it says 2 million. So I don't even know when I got this,
Yeah.
but double that.
You've had that for a while. Yeah. That's been around for a while.
So I'm curious, like, there's a quote, I think that'll tee us up well, that ties to what you were just talking about to this. And it's a quote I put events I often do like the sticky note, and I'll have people read it aloud with me. And it says, I'm doing the best I can with what I have in this moment. And that's all I can expect of anyone, including me.
Mm-hmm.
And best I have, most of us have zero skills or training in how to be like a good partner to somebody, like zero, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I'm curious to hear from your perspective of like, what are some of the things that have been really helpful for you and mom to, and like, something I admire about you is how you're still willing to do the work in your early 70s. Most people have like shut that down 20 years ago, but like you're still doing the work to have an even better marriage. And so just anything you're learning about.
Well, yes. Well, I mean, one of the things you learn as you get older is like anger is a sport for the young. I mean, we don't have the energy. It's just to take a nap. It's too, I mean, you don't see like an 80-year-old gang member. I mean, it's just a sport of the young, So we basically, we stay curious. We pay particular attention to sort of unspoken needs and unspoken wants, because that just gets you in so much trouble. And, it's like, because we have these rules. Like, I already told you that. Why didn't you know? It's like I'm not in your head. I mean, I tell people all the time, why do you think they did it? I'm like, I'm in my own head all day. I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm in anyone else's head. I have to cheat and like ask, well, couldn't you tell? No, I lost telepathy as a power like years ago. I don't have that either. I think also what's happened is we don't mean to, but we kind of get caught in the maze of our own mind. And so often, it's true in relationships, it's true in a work environment. Whenever you approach somebody to talk to them about something, you're interrupting them. I mean, they're not the information desk at the mall waiting for you. Like, what are you doing? Nothing. Just wait to see if you have something to ask me. I mean, I'm a blank slate. So I love this thing that Harville Hendricks talks about in the book. Well, not in the book, but he talks about it. He said, imagine you're in the theater and like there's a movie on, and somebody comes in and turns another projector on and begins to play another movie with a soundtrack on top of your movie. Like, how's that going to work for you? So if you say to somebody, I'd like to talk to you about whatever, is now a good time. You're saying to them, I'd like you to turn off your movie so I can play my movie. So it's a little bit of being intentional. And so often people say to me, well, you like make an appointment to like talk to somebody. I'm like, no, just sit there and waste 30 minutes like arguing with somebody, because that's a way better use of your time than to say, I mean, it's just, in business, we look at it as good business is good manners. Please, they can ask you, if you're in business and you have a customer or client, how many times when they pick up the phone, do you say, did I catch you at a good time? Is now a good time? We think nothing about doing that for people that we provide services for. But like at home, did I catch you at a good, never dawns on us. There's never, is this an okay time? Basically, are you in a position where you can hear me? And I'll say to the people, well, it's in your best interest to do that, because I assume the only reason I know to listen to somebody is because they're talking. I mean, if there's another one, somebody let me know, but I mean, it's not that deep. And so if they're not in a position to hear you, you're not going to get what you want. So it behooves you to find out if they can listen to you. I mean, it's as much for you as it is for them. So I think that's when. The other thing that we focus on, particularly if we get stuck, because if we get stuck, we know we're sort of kind of flooding the space between us with some junk. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we do that's been a go-to like forever is we'll do 3 good things at the end of the day. The end of the day, like, so 3 good things. So it could be something the person did for you. It could be a quality about them that you really love. I mean, it could be anything, but it's positive. And see, what happens is the brain looks at the people around us and it says two questions. Is that person going to kill me, or is that person going to do something for me? Because if they're going to kill me, I got all kinds of plans for them. It's
Mhm.
like, I'll kill them first. I'll hide from them. I'll mute myself around them. I'll do all kinds of things. So it's kind of the brain kind of works on either safe or unsafe. It's not like, don't get a little pregnant that way. I mean, either
Mhm.
safe or not safe. So, that's the thing that we focus on, is basically saying, so, mom's not me and I'm not mom. And, I'm never going to be a mom. She's never going to be me, but it's to say, so like, what is it that works? To me, what true intimacy is in a relationship is giving the other person ammunition to blow your brains out and trust they'll never pull the trigger.
Mhm.
That there are things that mom and I know about each other that no one's going to ever know.
Yeah.
Your parents have a whole life you know nothing about. And you have a whole life your parents know nothing about. I mean, it's
Sure.
like, and so that there is this sort of this sacred space where you can have this person there. So we find that's
Mm.
really helpful. So,
Well, the other thing I've learned through that work too, that's that a phrase that I was like ingrained in my brain, is that when we think about relationships and we all have conflict, right? We all have challenges, and yeah, David, good point. We can learn more listening than talking over them. I don't think I've ever learned anything by talking over someone. Touche, David.
right,
Um, but the quote that Harville says of conflict is growth trying to happen.
right.
That like when we're in the midst of conflict, what that is that's a sign. Oh, like growth is trying to happen. It's clearly not happening in a way that either person right now is feeling good about, but like conflict is growth trying to happen either with, likely within the relationship, within one of the people, within both of them. I mean, I think so. Curious about what your thoughts are on that.
There's an under there. What happens is there's an underdeveloped part of us, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I use that word on purpose because there's no judgment with that. Like, people talk about weaknesses and flaws. That, to me, it's like that oftentimes for people kind of insinuates bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll use this analogy. Like, let's say you have a muscle that you haven't developed, not bad muscle, just an underdeveloped muscle, and you can develop it. So the ability to be able to say, um, if there is a part of that other person that is somehow setting me off,
Mm-hmm.
or setting me off for reasons, there must be some kind of nerve ending that's hit me. So, if I have a hard time listening what somebody says about something, probably at one point I wasn't listening to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, the thing that's just, I don't know, so frustrating about we humans is that the very things that are done to us that causes the most pain are the things we'll do to other people. I mean, if I was from another planet, I stay here about 3 seconds. I'm like, I'm coming back when you have this is Planet of the Apes right here. I mean, I'll come back when you guys get your act together. I mean, there's a thing on Netflix, Chimp Empire, that mom and I just watched. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing is 120 chimps in a forest in Africa, and just the way they interact with each other.
Mm.
We got done. We're like, we have not really evolved all that much. We're really much further along than they are. And they're right there. We're looking at them because they have 98% of our DNA.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we haven't did that much. So if you can look at this thing and just say, look, you're always under development. You're
Mm-hmm.
always in development. You're always becoming whatever it is you're becoming. And the relationship is becoming,
Yeah.
wherever where, I mean, it, to me, it's both. It's both so. What's the word? There's such a sweetness to it, and there's such a fear of it. Is that the only part of my world I can't move into is a world without mom.
Mm.
I can't go there. That's not a world I can. I like we're not talking about that world. Like,
Yeah.
not coming up, right? 'Cause we say to each other like, "You better not die. You're not. Well, you better not die." Okay, well, we're gonna die. Well, can we like hold hands in the hospital now, like 5 minutes apart? Or something,
Like the Notebook. Like the Notebook. You have maybe
yeah,
like the end of the Notebook.
yeah, right. Well, Doug Flutie, the football player, his parents died like a few minutes apart in the hospital.
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's
and they
wild.
think, and they basically said his dad died of a broken heart,
Yeah, that's the thing.
like, within a few minutes. I mean, they were together for, I don't know, like 68 years or something, and it's
Yeah.
like, you just really, you get to the point where there is this, it, to your point, if you'll go through these things, like if you'll do the work, there's such sweetness on the other side.
Yeah.
But you gotta be, because you choose the behavior, choose the consequence, and his behavior. If you go out in the rain with an umbrella, you don't get wet.
Right.
because you're a better person. If you go out without an umbrella, you get wet, not because you deserve it, because you choose the behavior, you choose the consequence. So
Mm-hmm.
if we focus a little more on curiosity and empathy, like, oh, it's like, help me, like, yeah, like, what's that like? Like, what's that, what's that like? Help me understand that. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't get that. We don't, like, even though you have, a brother and a sister, you didn't grow up in the same house, you grew up in the same address,
Right. This is true.
because you had completely different childhoods in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
really the ability to just sit there and say, like how do I want things to be? I mean, I know, I think as I get older, I just spend so much, like I'm making an investment now in for 80. I'm putting the work in right now. So in 80,
Mm-hmm.
do I want to be like somebody said, like, what's too late to be 73? I'm like, everybody's 72. This dead thinks it's a great idea to be 73. So I'm
Right.
like all over that. I mean, what did Woody Allen say? I'm not afraid of dying. I just don't want to be there when it happens. I mean, like, I don't want to go anywhere. As long as I'm here, I want to be able to do what I do. I mean,
Yeah.
mommy on the bike as they pounding out for 2.5 hours, just, loving life. And it's like, is that a good thing to do? Well, we're both messed up that way, but we
Sure.
have a good time together. So,
Yeah, I don't get like age related comments. Like I just when people make a like I was at a bar where we all went out after this like event with people from our church on Saturday night, and there was a girl there who went to my high school because I saw her ring, and I called her. I said, "Oh, you went to NDP? This is the high school I went to." And she said, "Yeah." And then she's asked me when I graduated, and I told her when it was, and I guess she made a comment like she's probably like 18, 19. She made a comment that probably would have been somewhat offensive and
right.
like making me feel like I'm older than I am or something. And everyone else at the table heard it, and I like half the table heard it, and they were howling, and she was mortified. And mortified. She said something about her mom. Like she's like, well, my mom like she's 20, like looks like she's 25 or something. And I'm like, I'm okay with the fact that like I will tell anybody how old I am. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I'm 39 in a month.
Yeah.
And something I want to get back into one question about expressing needs in a second. So this is like a 10-second tangent. I don't want to go like dig into further, but I think your attitude toward aging is something that influences my attitude toward aging. And this idea that like it doesn't have to be something that we dread, that it can be something that we should 100% be celebrating. And,
So, yeah. So Satchel Paige had the question, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? So how old would you be? If you didn't know how old would you be?
I don't know, like 30 maybe,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like 10
I'm
years.
like 40 something.
But like also with the perspective that you get over time, I'm like, I don't have the perspective of a 30. I do have a perspective of somebody with 10 more years of life. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, I'm grateful for the perspective that I wouldn't have if I hadn't been on the planet this long.
Yeah, and there's certain things as you get older, like for the first time, I've noticed that people start talking about things in the future, like anything past 2050. I'm like, I don't know about, it doesn't matter to me because I'm not going to be there. So I've never had to say, at a certain point, you lose the trick. Like you can only double your age so much. Once you get to 50, you can come up with another strategy because you can't keep doing that. I mean, you come with different ones, but I mean,
Yeah,
the numbers, frankly, just become weird.
sure. I bet they
As soon as
do.
there's like I'll look at something and somebody died, like, oh my gosh, they were so old. They were like 71. I'm like, oh.
Like, oh, wait a second. Wait about that. So wait, let me come
Yeah.
back to something. I want to circle back to something
Okay.
before we close. We got 5 more minutes.
Okay.
So just any thoughts, and I know this could be a whole other thing we could unpack. And by the way, I'm just grateful to all of you for being here today. If you want to drop an insight of wisdom in the comments, maybe something that's been particularly helpful for you today. I know Natalie dropped something in a second ago. She said so many great tidbits of information for life and our relationships. Loving this so much, Natalie. Thank you for letting us know that. To have something, an area just that I think is really important of learning how to express what it's really to muting ourselves in a big way, learning to express what we feel or what we need or want, like learning to
Mhm.
express needs as opposed to, we were alluding to this earlier, expecting people to be mind readers.
Yes. Yes.
Like I found that to be helpful with Bill, like to say, hey, when I'm doing this, here's what I need. It might just be like when I'm pushing away and when I'm ignoring you, I'm scrolling on your phone. Like what I need is like a gentle pull toward and a hug. Like
Mhm.
I'm feeling overwhelmed about something and I'm avoiding it. So like
Right.
what I need is, and I think just communicating that in a way that's putting it on you is something that makes the other person then maybe want to meet it. So anything you want to share about
Yeah,
that?
there's a couple reasons why we have the unspoken needs, wants, and desires. One is because they're actually off camera. They're out of our own awareness. Like we didn't actually know we wanted that to even ask for it. And then the other is just the rules that we have in our head. Well, if I do that, then they're going to do that. That's when the telepathy comes in.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I kind of like to stick with you don't ask, you don't get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100% of things you don't ask for, you don't get, like for sure. I mean, 100% of the shots you don't take do not go in.
Right.
It's true. Never, and nobody ever got a hit in the dugout. Nobody ever struck out at the dugout. But I mean, like, what's the point? This is not like game on. I mean, like, I think that covers what everything we're talking about is like game on, like relationship on, like your life is like they're not practicing here. Like this is it. Like this game on. And so it's like, what do you want? What do you want this to look like? What do you want this to look like? And just keeping like goals and dreams in front of yourself.
Yeah.
I just think it's important to remember age is a number.
Mm-hmm.
Magic's real. No expiration date on dreams, and anything's possible. I mean,
Well, and our relationships too. It's like we can goal set in our work, or we can goal set in a thing we want to accomplish, but very rarely do we put like a relationship in that spot. We like,
right.
how can I strive more in my relationship? That would really
Right.
change things if people did that.
And because at the end of your life, you begin to realize that that's all there is.
Right.
There's all relationship is all there is. There isn't anything but relationships. Without those, if you wake up each day, generally speaking, you have your health, you get through the day, and you have at least one person that you love that loves you. You're in the bonus round.
Yeah.
You're in the bonus round. The rest of it's just going to be gravy.
Yeah. Well, I want to share. Here's some nuggets that are coming in from people. Chris said, best tidbit, be willing to give your partner the ammunition to destroy you. Like that's a vulnerability. Is vulnerability, the root of the word vulnerable is woundable. I read that in a book. So it's like woundable is basically putting yourself in a position where you're able to be wounded, but the other person does not use that. They don't act on that, right? They honor
Right.
you.
Exactly.
And I think,
I mean, we all have these no-fly zones. Like we're defenseless. I don't go there. I don't have.
yeah. But it's like with our partner at the very most, and it might be like, hey, when I share something with you, here's what I really need that will make me feel supported, or here's what might help me open up. We don't always know necessarily how to do that. I mean, therapy definitely is something that's helped me.
Right.
Reading books like what I shared, like Getting the Love You Want. This should be a reading manual for every human, as an aside. We're going to have him on the show at some point. But
of course, you have to.
One of your besties, Dad, Harville Hendricks.
He's the wildest guy in the world. He's a trip. He's a complete trip.
Well, here's something else. Doug says, what a blessing to be present with you both today. The wisdom, the bond, father-daughter dynamic, which is uber special. So glad. And he reached out to connect. Doug's a solid. He's another solid. There's everyone in this. I mean, there's awesome people here. Natalie, this has been a phenomenal episode. You are so welcome. Barbara says, my favorite power hour is with you and your dad, Barbara the Ironman.
Cool.
So, and then Toby says, learning to express our needs means that you first acknowledge it to yourself, which is a big part of it. In order to express what we need to somebody else, we have to first identify, like, well, what is it that I need when I'm at my best? I'll bring some of that up, Toby. I'm going to do a solo show in July. I'll bring some of that stuff up, just about ways that we can identify what our needs are and whatnot. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here, to Doug, to Chris, to Barbara, to Natalie, to Toby, Tim, Tom, Brian, David. I know I'm missing Enrique. I missed shouting you out, Enrique. Thank you, Veda, for being here. Rachel. Oh my gosh, I hope I'm getting everybody. I know I'm missing a few. But Carla is here. Rich is here. But yeah, so I just, I'm so glad. Chris Buddy's here. Another awesome show. Buddy says Buddy, right, Dad? Don't you? I have girls, so the father-daughter show makes my heart happy. So there's that. So everybody, I just want to thank you all for being here and want to let you know that our guest in 2 weeks is none other than what my dad refers to as the man behind the curtain. Tim Sohn, who's the producer of the show, who has been behind the scenes for a year and a half, who we are now bringing front and center. So I'm really excited. He has a really moving story, and you just got to come to that show. It's going to be an amazing conversation, and then we're going to take off for the 4th, and then we'll be back on July 10th It'll be right after I've done my TEDx talk. And like I said, if you're in the Baltimore, DC area, send me a DM and I'll send you the link to register. Or if you want to come in person, you can meet my dad in person. You can meet me in person. We're both going to be there. And it'll be super fun. So, and Angela, you were here too. And Zach, oh my gosh, how could I miss all the names? So, Dad, thank you again for being here. Happy 73rd birthday tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, honey.
And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow for dinner. All right, everybody. Thank you. Bye.